Hi friend, it's Sachin here. Have you ever wondered how to increase the perceived value of your offer? Well, I know many people, including myself, struggle with this, and there was a few switches that flipped for me that helped me understand pricing and value far more effectively. And so what I realized first and foremost is that people don't pay us what we're worth. Nobody could ever pay you what you're worth because your value is priceless. What they pay for is what they perceive their challenge is worth. So it's not about what you think about their problem, it's about what they think about their problem. And your job as a good detective is to help them understand the magnitude of the problem. To minimize their problem is a huge disservice to you and to them as well. And the reason so many practitioners struggle is because they really make the pricing about themselves, which is really about ego, versus making it about the client, which is really about service and to provide value for somebody else. So make it about the problem you solve, not about what your time is worth. That's something that's really hard to quantify, and this is why so many people struggle with it. One of my mentors, Michael Fishman, said that something can't be expensive and valuable at the same time. So what that means is that if something is perceived as valuable or a solution is perceived as valuable, then it can't be expensive simultaneously. And there's a difference between somebody telling you that something's expensive and they can't afford it. We all know Ferraris are pricey, right? However, people who buy Ferraris or sports cars or supercars don't perceive them as expensive. They see them as valuable. And that's why they buy them. That's how they can justify it. Whereas someone like myself or yourself, or definitely my dad, would not see the value in that. And so he would see it as being expensive. So our perception is really based on, some key variables. And so it's really crucial for us to identify this. What I want to share in today's video is a page out of my journal called the value equation. The value equation, this I've adopted from Alex Hormozi, is a very powerful equation because it helps you understand how to position yourself as being both valuable and solving a problem that's crucially important for your client. So there's 4 parts to this equation, and of course our goal is to always increase value. So we want value to go up, and if we go back to fundamentals of math, multiplication and division, I hope they're still teaching that in school. What we realize is that we want to make value higher, we have to make the top number go up, and we have to make the bottom part of this equation, value, go down. That will increase value. The closer we can get the bottom to 0, the more valuable our solution becomes. So I'll walk you through a few examples and help you understand how to adopt this into your business and into your own personal value equation. Remember, the problem we solve for the client is it's really not about us, it's about them, okay? So the first part of this equation, the first thing we need to take into consideration is this problem worth solving? So I'm just going to put PWS here. Is this a problem worth solving? This is where we want to actually truly understand their problem, and instead of minimizing their problem, even if it's early on in the development of their condition, we want to congratulate them for having the foresight to address this problem sooner than later. Most people wait too long. So what we have to figure out is, what buttons can we push that are the same buttons that they're pushing in their mind that's keeping them up at night? You see, if this problem isn't keeping them up at night, it's probably not worth solving. So we have to identify what keeps this person up at night. And then we want to ensure that they fully understand the problem without exaggerating, without pulling their leg, without being dishonest with them. We want to help them understand what the actual problem is in its full magnitude. What happens if they address this problem? What happens if they don't address this problem? Okay, let me give you a leaky pipe as an example. So if somebody has a leaky faucet and that water is just draining into the sink, maybe it's a big deal, maybe it isn't. It's not causing any further damage. It's just wasting money. But if that same amount of water was leaking, damaging their drywall, damaging their carpet, causing mold to grow, okay, damaging the floor below, damaging furniture perhaps, now this person fully understands that this is a different problem. Same amount of water, okay, but a different level of a problem. And now this problem is definitely worth solving. So we have to help people understand the true magnitude of their problem, right? We would never say, oh, it's just a small leak, it's no big deal, right? We would, if we were honest with them, we would help them understand how this is going to lead to long-term catastrophic issues, okay? So first and foremost, what is that button that you need to push to identify what's keeping them up at night, okay? So when somebody's trying to lose weight, it's not the weight that's keeping them up at night. They can't even see the weight, right? Unless they look in a mirror, which some people learn to avoid doing. So what is actually keeping them up at night? Maybe they're afraid what happens if they're not able to take care of their kids. Maybe they haven't had intimacy with their spouse in a long time. Maybe they're just so exhausted, and while they can't see that, they can feel it, right? These are things that we need to identify, right? And we can even ask that question, what about this problem keeps you up at night? Okay. Why is this problem worth solving to you? Why is it important that we fix this? These are the type of questions that you want to be asking. The next part of this equation is what I refer to as, can I actually solve this problem? Okay. So the way we now increase value again is, can I solve this? And that means one of two things, right? It could mean, can I solve this, or can you solve this? And then the other part is for me, okay? Everyone thinks their situation is unique, and while it is in many cases, you've probably handled this before. So can I solve this, and can you solve this for me, are two questions we need to answer, right? Yes, they can solve it, but are you the right person, right? Or no, you can't solve this, and maybe you're not the right person. So the way we demonstrate, can I solve this, or can you solve this, is by showing them case study, because case studies and testimonials are going to help you illustrate and share stories of people just like them. And considering testimonials, make sure you've got a variety that you can share with people, or even when you're sharing the story or sharing their story back to them, you might even say, you remind me of a client that I just recently helped. Their story, while unique, sounded very similar to yours. And it's unfortunate, but I hear this pattern all too often. You don't have to say that I hear this story all too often, because that minimizes their challenge. What you want to do is you want to share that you've seen this pattern often, right? So you're still allowing them to be unique, but you're also letting them know that you've seen this before, okay? Very important. Positioning of our words makes all the difference in how the client perceives our value as well, okay? So problem worth solving, and then can I solve this? Can you solve this? How do we work together? And can you do it for me? That's an important part of this equation, is the for me. Okay, and this is where you want to have case studies, testimonials, and stories of people who you've helped that are just like them, okay, or people who have the same pattern as they do, the clinical pattern that you're seeing. All right, so now we know how to increase the amplitude and magnitude of the top of this line. Now let's figure out how to get the number on the bottom lower and the variables lower so that we can further increase value. So one thing that we want to also note is that, with this equation, these four variables kind of all work together. So variable number 3 that I want to draw your attention to is effort and sacrifice. So effort and sacrifice is exactly that. How much effort is it going to be? And what do I have to sacrifice to get this done? Now, the significance of this, and the reason that this is important, is because this is going to be about perceived effort and perceived sacrifice, okay? And so when we're talking about our program and the changes and the transitions that people are going to make, sometimes they're going to have to make some pretty radical changes, and it's going to be a huge uphill effort for them. However, instead of saying that, we can tell them, listen, our focus is your long-term health, So we will walk you through this process in a way that feels effortless for you. And we are going to add before we subtract. Okay, so that minimizes sacrifice, right? And you want to do that. You might add more morning sunlight. You might add more water. You might add more greens into their life and into their diet. You might add more breathing or breath work, right? Or you might make them more aware of these things, right? And you might want to really double down on minimizing effort and sacrifice. We're going to make this so easy. We're going to make simple, easy changes, and we're going to hold your hand throughout the entire process and support you, hold you accountable as much as you need it. Okay? So that's number 3. And then the last one, which kind of goes almost without saying, but worth mentioning, is time. How long is it going to take? How long is it going to take for me to start noticing a difference? Right? Now, people know it's not going to happen overnight, but they also want to know that they're on the right path. So when you give someone directions, you give them landmarks along the way. You're going to come to this street, or you're going to come to this tree, or this, building, right, of this particular color, right? This landmark is what they're looking for and what you're going to give them instructions on. So you want to give them some landmarks to know that what you're doing is working and what they're doing is working. So I might say, your healing is going to vary depending on a variety of different factors, and we can't predict what life has in store for you. However, you will start to notice improvements, measurable improvements, within the first few days or within the first few weeks. Okay? Be realistic and then show them a way to measure their progress. So the way I would measure my progress if I was helping somebody lose weight is them getting on a scale, or them taking measurements of particular body parts, or giving them an Oura ring to see how their HRV and heart rate is changing. Right? These are things that we can do to demonstrate that in no time things are moving in the right direction, and that gets you better buy-in. So this is the value equation. I want you to start looking at your program and your conversations, whether it's a video that you're doing, whether it's a presentation that you're doing, whether it's a one-on-one discovery call that you're doing. The value equation is going to make a huge difference for you. So number 1, is this problem worth solving? Number 2, do you have case studies and testimonials of people like me that you've helped? Okay, so can I solve this problem, and can you help me solve it? Number 3 is effort and sacrifice. We want to, be honest, but also emphasize that we're going to minimize effort and sacrifice for them. And keep in mind that even though you might have somebody doing something that's requiring them effort, they didn't have to go through all the effort to know that this works, right? Like, you've gone through all the effort, painstaking effort of identifying what works and what doesn't. So you might even mention that to them, okay? And then the last one is time, right? How do I help them save time? How do I show them that in no time, or in very little time, things are going to start functioning and working better? Now, let me give you an example of why people take Advil using this formula. So if somebody's got a headache or pain that they're experiencing, then they've got a problem worth solving, because maybe they've got an important conversation or talk or presentation that day and they can't afford to have a headache. They've got to be on their A game. Now, their case studies and testimonials might be from their own experience. They've taken Advil before and it's helped them, or they've taken this particular medication and it's solved their particular problem. While it's obviously not the full resolution, because they still have the problem, they know that they're able to address it in this particular instance. Effort and sacrifice of taking an Advil is basically nothing, right? You can take it with food and or without food if you want to. And then, within a short period of time, usually within 20 or 30 minutes, they're probably going to start feeling better, right? So the value of that is quite high. Contrasting that with, let's call it a functional medicine program where they have that same headache or migraine. And even though you have, even though it's a problem worth solving, and maybe you've helped people with headaches and migraines, and maybe they know that they can get rid of it if they did all the right things, they are probably thinking in their minds, oh my God, I have to give up all my favorite foods, can't go out anymore, I can't do my favorite things anymore, it's too much effort and sacrifice, and it's going to take me weeks or months to feel better. So the bottom of the equation becomes really big. Okay, so we have to, again, make those numbers smaller, make those values smaller, so it increases the perceived value of our offer. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some insights on how to position yourself from a price standpoint, but also how to ensure that your value is being perceived so that people are saying yes to you. Because when they say yes to you, their lives improve dramatically. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day.